So what we're going to talk about is background. So we'll talk about background. So I'm going to bring in a div. So I'm going to come off here and start with my inline style, internal styling. So here I'm going to call the div curly braces. So next I'm going to do is, let's style it. I'm going to give this div a width of 100% and a height of 600 px. So now let's give it color. So I'm going to add this background color of, just give it any background color you want. So now refresh, this is what I get. So apart from the background color, we can also add background image. So we can add background image. So by adding background image, when I say background, then image, so background image, then you pass the URL. So unlike whenever you're adding your regular image in your HTML, in CSS we use the URL. Instead of that URL, we put double quotes, then the image you are trying to apply there. So I'm just going to go with anyone. So when I refresh, this is it. So this is it. So most time your image is going to pop out very, very big, but right now I just have my image. This image is very small, so you can reduce the image if you want. So you can reduce the image using the background size. So we have the background size to reduce the image. So background size. So now instead of this background size, this you can give it 400 px. So just use any small number. So the first value is for the x-axis, which means the first value is for the width. The second value is for the height. So when I refresh, and you can notice that the image repeats, that is by default. The image repeats by default. So now looking at this now, you see that I've given this background image size. So the first value is always for the width, the second one is for the height. Now sometimes if you, so I can choose if I want to make sure, you see as the image repeat, I want this in one single image to cover the whole page. I can just come here and say 100%. You can still go ahead and do the 100%, and the height 100% also. So when I refresh, you see that the image just covered everywhere and it looks really nice. But there's a problem here. When I stretch it, you see that the image starts looking awful. So you see it starts stretching, so the quality of the image reduces. So now to prevent this thing from happening, we have other things that we can apply instead of putting this. So other things we can apply is, we have the contain. So contain. So what contain does is that I have a given width that I want it to enter. So the contain will sacrifice filling up that space, but will bring the full quality of that image here. So when I refresh, you're going to see the contain. So it will sacrifice filling up the space, whereby it is creating the repeat. So if I remove the repeating, you see that it's only one single one. So the contain will sacrifice filling up the space, so with one single image. Now if you want it to fill up the space with only one single image, you don't want all this repeating, or you don't want it to be a single image with a lot of space like what the contain will do. So you can just use cover. So you can use the cover. So what the cover will do is that it will fill up the whole space with one single image, but it will cut the image. So it will cut the image. So when I refresh, this is it. So it will cut the image. So now another thing we can do again is, I can prevent this thing from repeating. Let me return it back to that 300 px and the 400 px for the height and width. So you see how the image repeats by default. I can choose to stop it from repeating and say background repeat. So background repeat. can tell it to keep repeating x-axis. You can repeat for the x-axis alone. You can also tell it to repeat only at the y-axis. It will repeat at the y-axis alone. So you can tell it not to repeat at all. So you can just say no repeat, no repeat, becomes one single image. So you can use background position to move it around. So background position to move it around. So you can say move it to the center. So you can see move it to the top. So you can say top, move it to the top. You can say move it to the top right. So you can use this also if you want. You can say the bottom and so on. So another thing you can also do is that if you don't want to do this, you can also say you can use value. So I will put this one here at 0%. I'll put here at 0%. So when I do that, everything will return to this part here, to the top right. So the first value here is for the width, while the second value is for the height. So if I push it to this top here, now I can choose to bring it downward. If I want to bring the image downward, based on I'm using this percentage, I can come to the second place and use value. Whenever I increase the number, it will keep going down. So you increase the number, this value here brings it downward. 100 is going to bring it down. So why the first value is meant to push it through the width. So this one is to push it around through the width. So as you keep adding it, it will move toward the right side. So it will move very much towards the right side now. So just know you can use the value to move it around also. Now what about if I'm using let me bring it back to cover. So cover, now you will notice something. If I return it to 0%, since I'm using cover, when I refresh, see it's going to focus up at the right side. Let me expand it so you can see it very well. See where it's showing. So I can still use the position to choose where I want it to show. So remember, the first value is to move it downward, and the second value is to push it toward the right. The second value is to push it through the height downward, while the first one is to move it toward the right. So when I add value here, which we see, so I feel there's no height. So looking at it, this image does not stretch towards the width. So meaning that if I keep putting value in this first one, nothing is going to move. But looking at the image cut at below it, meaning that it still extends in the height. So if I put value here, the height is going to keep working. So let me add 40. See the image move upward, and say keep going. 90. See, keep going downward. So any place the image cut, you can choose to direct it to a part. Use the position to move it to the part you want to be visible. So now another thing we have again is, so I'm going to, but if I want to move this into the center, I can just say 50% here and also 50% here. We'll move this image to the center. It will just position the center of this image. And there are other things we can do. I will show you the style that you can apply to your text. Now look at this. I'm going to bring a p tag here, lorem. Let me use 200. So when I refresh, you see that p tag here. Now let me reduce this. Now the first thing we have here is we are going to talk about another background position property called the background attachment. So background attachment fixed. So what it does is that it keeps an image at the same place. So even if the page is scrolling, So it will keep it at the page. By default, you will notice that the image is scrolling with the page. Even when before I put it, let me comment on it first. Let me reduce the size of this thing to 200 px, 200 px both height and weight. When I refresh, you can see the image now. So normally this is how it is. It is scrolling with the page. But now when I bring the attachment back, you can see that it remains on one place even if the page is scrolling. So the image remains at that particular position even when the page is scrolling. So now let me bring the cover back. So there are styles you can do with this. So when I bring the cover back, so you see I can even create more. So you watch me duplicate this. So you can duplicate this. So you can use it to create a nice style, because all I'm just doing is highlighting it and duplicating it. So I've duplicated it several times. So now when I refresh, watch. Well, due to that they have the background attachment, it makes it look as if you are scrolling, or the text is moving on top of the image, whereas what you have there is multiple images. So this is the job of the background attachment. So it makes you do something like this. So it makes you do something like this. You can even make it so it will be displaying several different images as you scroll down. So this is it for your background image. So another thing again is that the background image gives you privilege of adding more image. So I can add more image if I want. Now let me show you. Now I'm going to come here. So now if you want to add more image, you can come here and write URL, double quotes, and let me pick a different image. So this, and then I'll put comma before the other one. So I want the other image to become the smaller one. So now you see when I refresh now, this image will take the same, so this one just replace on it. So as you keep putting images, they always stack on top of each other. So this other image is on top of the house image. So if I want to reduce it, I can come here and reduce the hotel image. I think I should use some other image here. So let me try. Alright, let's continue. So I can come here now. You see the hotel image is also taking the same style with this one, but I don't want it to do that. So I want to specify the height and width and background size of this first image. So I'm going to come to this one. I'm going to tell the first hotel image not to cover. So I'm going to give it 200 px for the height, 300 px. Okay, for the width, and 200 for the width and 300 for the height. Then so right now I have not specified the height of the first image. The hotel image is this, and height of the house is the last one. So when I refresh, you're going to see that. So you can see the hotel image now reduced. So now I can move it somewhere down using the position. So I can come here and tell it comma before this. I can just say move it at 0. Okay, move it 100%, 100%, which is at the right bottom. So at the right bottom, it will move it down here. Refresh. This is it here. So at the right bottom. So it's just right there at the right bottom. So now we can also add as many images as you want. Just be adding it here, and you always know that as you add it, they will keep stacking on top of each other. So URL, let me add one more image and just style it differently. So the ones you want as background image should be the last one, because the last one is always the one that is behind. So as I keep adding image, so let me add another image. So an image here, comma. Now refresh, you see that one on top. So it's on top of, it's trying to take the first style. So what you need to do now is, let me specify for that first image. So let me specify for that one. I'm going to come here and give it its own background size. Background size. So its own background size, I want it to take 400 px and 400 px for height and width. So I'm also going to give a position of from the width 0 from the width 0% from the width, and that is going to move it to the then 50% to the center left, comma, the center left. It's going to move it to somewhere here. So this is it. So you can move your image using this. So this is it for the background images. We'll see you in our next class.